Hello, and welcome to the Flourish Podcast. My name is Devin Abalon.
And my name is Michelle Holmes. And today we want to talk about mentally preparing for a big life change. So, we are talking about the things that we decide to do, the things that we know are happening, such as a career change, a job change, moving, even choosing to grow your family, becoming new parents, maybe for the first time, or to have a change in some parenting endeavor. And so these are things that are big life changes. And we want to give some tips today on how you can prepare yourself for that and some of our lines of thinking in order to have this successful change so that we can flourish in this new thing that we're having. But it's not always easy. So as I was thinking about this episode, I was thinking about getting to a state of readiness and how important that is for us to get to this state of readiness where we may have been thinking about something for a while, up until when we decide, okay, we're finally going to go for it. Devin, when
Yes.
you have had some changes in your life,
Yeah.
were they like fly by the seat of your pants, ready to go, or did it take you some time to get ready?
Um, Definitely not the first. So as an engineer, I
Right.
I am going to analyze and meticulously analyze and reanalyze things, so that I'm ready. You talk about getting to that state of readiness, and even beforehand, we're talking about, we've already made the decision. How do we prepare ourselves mentally? From even before then, when we're making that decision, I'm going through, creating spreadsheets with pros and cons. And then to ready myself, I'm kind of making lists of things to expect, what not to, how are things going to be different? And I think that's really, for me, that's been the key, is acknowledging what is going to change, and being able to reconcile that's going to represent a dramatic break in my comfortable routine as I know it today. But it's, the decision, I've already made that decision to move forward in that direction. So being able to understand, or at least to some degree, we're not always going to be, we can't see the future, but to be able to get myself ready, it is something that I have in the past taken quite a bit of time to just absorb, so that it's not a big shock.
Yeah, and I think that for different changes, we take different amounts of time, of course, individually, but also even in our own life. I know that some changes for me have happened relatively quickly. I think about moving from San Diego to Nashville. That was pretty
Yeah.
much like done in just a couple of months, really.
Yeah.
But there are other things like a career change, which I was working on for over 5 years. And it takes some time and some preparation to even be comfortable with envisioning this as our new life, or something that we're taking on for the first time in this different way.
Yeah.
So I think that you had mentioned, you said you do a list. Are you a
Yes.
list maker?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you have sometimes you have your pros and cons. I think for me, I have made lists in the past, but typically what I'm doing is just sort of processing, doing a little bit of research and things like that on
Mhm.
my own time so that I can get in that state where I'm clear on, well, what do I need? logistically to prepare, which we've talked about
Yeah.
in previous episodes, but setting aside the logistics, what do I need to prepare in terms of getting ready and planning and getting my heart ready for something, and even having a sense of security for me? Because this is something that we hear a lot from people when they are talking about changing positions, so changing their role, whether that's with a completely new company or within their company, making a different move. And a lot of people feel like they are not in this space where they can take that on because there are some unknowns. And the
Yes.
unknowns for people can really kind of stress them out, eat away, make them feel like they can't do it. And so I feel that it's a really important part of the getting ready in that state to also define what's important for my security, and so that I can do this in a way that I'm as supported as I think I can be in this and having this feeling of, okay, let's go ahead and do it, because we want to have these changes that we're very proactive and intentional about. It's not just a matter of course correcting when life gets weird or something changes. So we want to do the work on the front end. And like I said, preparing our hearts, because sometimes it does take time for us to really have clarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think,
yeah, go.
well, I was just going to say, I think it really goes along with kind of the whole, what we've been talking about for so long in this podcast, is ensuring that that acknowledgement that what we're doing, the decisions we've made, is aligned with the direction that we want to go. It's aligned with the core values that we have to construct the life that we want to construct. So just kind of that, as we prepare ourselves, just continuously reminding ourselves that this puts us in better alignment with those goals. It goes a long way to kind of reassuring ourselves that though we may not have all the answers, though there may be unknowns and there may be that risk, that lack of security, that we have, come to terms with the fact that this is something that's going to move us forward in the right direction.
Yes. And I love what you said here, because it made me think about some of the changes I've made in my own life. There has been a high level of risk in them. And so I'm mitigating that as best I can. But I'm also to this place where I'm taking the initiative because I know that I can handle and adapt as I go along. So I think it's really important for us to also identify that most of these changes, there will be a period of adaptation and transition and things not being perfect. And so if we take like a new job, for instance, that new job, sometimes it takes us almost a year to be really fully comfortable in that role. And if I think about starting a business in my own life, it's taken multiple years to really get into a good groove and to get some clarity. And so there's risk in all of this, and there's uncomfortable feelings and things that are not pleasant and not exactly like what we're used to.
But I think in that way, it puts us in that uncomfortable position that actually sort of forces growth, right? It keeps us uncomfortable to a point where it encourages us, and if we respond in the proper way, we're able to grow because of that. And it's interesting you brought that up, because it just made me think. I made a recent change in jobs earlier this year, or about a year ago or so, and it was something where I had been in the previous role for quite some time, about 13 years, and so I was very comfortable. I enjoyed what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. I could roll with it, and I had reached a level of I don't want to say complacency, but I was kind of just working, going through things on a regular basis. It's something I was very comfortable with. And so I changed jobs, and it, is very different. So very different, and a whole new set of challenges. And certainly that there was a period where it was it was a real struggle to kind of adapt to those changes, to be able to do it. But what I found is that it forced me to really use parts of my brain that I hadn't used in so long. And it was really just encouraging that I was able to just kind of go through things. And it's become, I feel like I'm just a little bit more engaged, more enthusiastic, and just more passionate about what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, because now I have that struggle, that sort of challenge. And so I think, as we ready ourselves, is acknowledge that it's going to be uncomfortable at first. It's not going to be, a lot of times when we make these changes, we have kind of we balance the pros and cons, and we envision, I'm going from this stage to another stage, and this other stage is going to be so much better. That's why I'm making the change. But acknowledge that things don't always go as smoothly as we think, and be okay with that. And if we're okay with that, and we acknowledge there's going to be a period of adaptation where we're going to learn and we're going to grow and do things differently, it makes that transition that much easier.
Yes. And keeping in mind, because I feel like that's where a lot of people can get off track, is when they are in that uncomfortableness, and when they are in that difficulty, then they're getting really discouraged, and they're not keeping in mind, okay, in the grand scheme of things, this is new. This is happening maybe for the first time ever, that we're learning some of the things that we have to learn to thrive here. So keeping that in mind, and having some self-compassion for ourselves when we're having a bad time, but also having that level perspective on, well, we know that there is an adaptation period. We know that humans are very adaptable. We are going to have to find what works for us. And we also need a pretty good amount of self-confidence that we have that ability. And sometimes we don't have that self-confidence right off the bat. We have to exercise that muscle, and we have to show ourselves that, yes, we did survive and we did make it through. And some of these life changes feel really, really big and isolating and scary at times. And so having that mental kind of endurance can be really important for us to kind of have this more supportive mental state for ourselves as we go through this transient period in our lives.
Yeah. So
I didn't know if you were going to add anything.
No. Well, I was just, it was kind of what you were already saying.
Okay.
Is that, a lot of times when things don't go as we had planned, we sort of second guess ourselves. And again, you're already down that road, and we're talking more about preparing for making that change. Is through that preparation is to just give yourself that break. You've acknowledged that you've made a decision to move forward with this big life change for a variety of reasons. Maybe you had a spreadsheet or a list or something, the pros and cons. But one of the things I found is important is that you have to understand, or you've got to acknowledge that things are going to be different. I mentioned before with my previous job, I had a routine because I was very comfortable in what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. That routine is going away. You're gonna have to replace it with a new routine. And so to be able to just let go of that it does a lot. So you just have to, let it go. let it
Let it
go.
go.
Yeah. See, I wasn't going to go there because,
Yeah,
but yeah.
anyone with kids.
Well, yeah, because, you know, the last job I had, you know, it was based out of Minnesota, and that was part of the routine is I would go to Minnesota all the time. But it's okay because the cold never bothered me anyway. Oh, oh, that was a terrible, terrible, terrible. Anyway, go ahead.
Referencing lines from Frozen. Okay. So yes, to me, it's a lot of resilience
Yeah.
here for people because, yeah, I think about moving, and I've moved cross country twice as an adult by myself, and it's just like it can be a level of discomfort because you're realizing all of the things that you're giving up or all of the things that will be different. And like I remember one of the biggest deals about me moving is like, oh my gosh, okay, not only am I leaving all the friends I have here, but and all the contacts that I have here, but I'm also leaving my favorite doctors and service providers, you know, my favorite massage therapist, I'm leaving her, and my favorite downtown restaurant where I had like the best meal ever, right? And so we realize that, okay, we're gonna have these new experiences, and they are gonna be different from what we've had before. And sometimes they're not going to be different in a better way. They're
Yeah.
just going to be different, you know? And so having that ability to, like I said, endure, to have this resilience of, okay, I'm gonna spend the time, or I'm gonna know that it's gonna take some time, and
Yeah.
that's okay too, so that we can just not be so discouraged when things aren't exactly like humans are very adaptable, but also
Yeah.
many humans love their routines. And so when things are so different, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't just call the same person I've been calling. I have to
Yeah.
find a new person, and then I have to find a new person that I like and who does a good job. And then I can call them. And that does take some effort on our part. So knowing that we are going to exert the effort on the front end to make this change possible is another thing that I think is really important for preparing ourselves and our hearts for what this change is going to require from us.
So we've talked, you know, the last few minutes about change and about how, but we're sort of really emphasizing the fact that things will not be as good as they were before. And I'm not, you know, we're not at all suggesting that, you know, but it is important that you have the mindset or prepare yourself that potentially things may not be as good. So that you're not disappointed, so you don't have this immediate feeling of regret. But on the flip side of things, I think it's important that you know, to get excited about the new things that you're going to be able to experience. You know, get excited about the new restaurants you're going to be able to try out, and about the new people that you're going to be able to meet, and the new processes that you're going to be able to learn and really excel at. So I think it's on both sides. Is as we mentally prepare ourselves to make this change, is recognize that things are going to be different. Things might be worse. Things might be better. But to really, you know, work your way through the challenges and really celebrate and just revel in the newness, the new things that you're going to be able to experience. And so I know that when I've, you know, we talked about job changes and we talked about moving. I've had my share of moves. I've moved from a number of different places just in the past several years. And one of the things I always like doing is discovering those new restaurants, or that new hiking trail, or, you know, new things that you can just really enjoy, and resist that urge to think, well, you know, back at, you know, my last place, I had this and this and this. It's okay to, you know, think about that. My wife makes fun of me because I'm I'm overly sentimental about certain things, but it's okay. You can keep those, in your memories, and then just start making new memories with the new place that
Mhm.
you're at, and the new. It's exciting, Otherwise, and it there are positives. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have made the decision to make that change. And so just really enjoy that whole process. And if you have your mindset that this is what I'm going to be looking forward to, then it really helps give you that encouragement and that confidence that you're making that right decision.
Yes, because like you said, we are proactive with the changes. We are intentional. To be preparing for a big life change, that's not something that hopefully we're getting our arm twisted to do. That's something that we've
Yeah,
chosen or we know is going to benefit maybe our family or something. So coming back to that more positive mindset
exactly.
around it where yeah, things are going to be a little bit different, but think of all the benefits of this. Thinking even just aligning to why have we decided to do this? What's
Yeah,
the outcome that's going to be really exciting and good and meaningful for us? How is this better for us? And kind of focusing on that sometimes to be the North Star if we're really, having some growing pains, so to
yeah.
speak.
I think
Yeah.
another thing that's important is, we've been talking about how we internalize that decision and how we're mentally preparing ourselves. But I think another way that can really help us get into that right mindset is to have people around you. Maybe your partner, your spouse, or your maybe a coworker or someone, a colleague that you can confide in, that you can talk to, and kind of talk through some of the things with them, because they can be another source of encouragement for you when you might be doubting yourself. Having said that, just be careful. You want to take it with a grain of salt, because they're make sure it's someone that you trust. But having
Absolutely.
that other person who sort of has your back, who understands you and what your goals are,
Mhm.
they'll not only keep you, they can be there to keep you encouraged even when you feel like you might have made the wrong decision.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It reminds me of how much I got support, like how much support I received from my husband when I chose to go and start a business. It was really
Yeah,
his support that was like, okay, yes, we can do this for our family and we can look at the positives and the flexibility and all of the things that are really important here. And he would always joke with me and kind of keep my head on straight because sometimes business would be really difficult to figure out what needs done and how
yeah,
to do it. We're doing all of these things on our own and for the first time. And so he would remind me like, no, you're doing great. And can you imagine if you were, and then he would reference like in your previous role. And
yeah,
for me doing something that I just was like so draining for me to he was like, could you imagine right now? Because I used to have to wake up at like 5 a.m. And do a couple of things for an all day event. And he's like,
yeah,
could you imagine waking up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, having this event all day long, coming home, and so he would just remind me that no, you chose this for a reason. And sometimes we really do need that person. My husband is also like the eternal optimist, but we need that cheerleader in our corner who is going to remind us like, no, you're okay. And I've certainly been that cheerleader for other people in my
sure,
life as well. I think about my best friend and some of the changes that she's gone through, and yeah, there is a difficulty sometimes, but that's when I'm like, you're doing great. Of course there's
yeah.
difficulty. Like, but think about all these benefits. And so that helps recenter and us come back to the whole reason that we made the change is focusing on some of those positives.
Yeah, focusing on the positives and just the gratification of overcoming any challenges, when you have new things that you're if you're struggling through, that is one of the kind of the highs in life, right? Is to be able to know that you were able to get through. You're resilient, you're agile, you're adaptable, and you were able to get through that. And so I think that's also really important.
Yes, absolutely. So we want to hear from you. Are you getting ready for a change? And if you are, do you understand why? So are you set and centered on the why of actually making this change? What is the meaning for it for you? How is this going to benefit you? And is there a plan in place? I know for me, as a fellow engineer or former engineer, I don't know if I'm allowed to call myself
You're
an
still an
engineer.
engineer. Yeah.
Okay, great. But for me, having the logistics, which we didn't go over in this episode, but having more of those preparation and those security things, maybe going over finances or going over a schedule or responsibilities, however that's going to look, can help us feel like, okay, yes, we can get in this readiness state and we can go ahead and just open a brand new door.
Yep. All
Great.
right.
Well, thank you for joining us. Anything to add, Devin?
No. Thank you for joining. And we look forward to continuing this conversation and other conversations as we strive to build a life that we can all truly flourish. So.
Oh, I like that.